Today is Saturday, March 12th, 2011. We're standing at the top of the Northburn Tailings, located next to the Northburn Station and overlooking the Clutha River. From here you can see the herringbone pattern that is formed as the miners washed the water down the hill and stacked the rocks over to the side so that the sand could be collected in the center and they could find the precious gold in there.
Down below us is Lake Dunstan, where the Clutha River used to run. Now we're standing at the head of one of these herringbone tailings formations at the Northburn Tailings, on a part of what was Northburn Station. Northburn then made an arrangement with the Department of Conservation to make this a heritage area. And as you look down, you can see the herringbone pattern here. Down the middle would have been a main sluicing, main area where water was diverted into, and that was used to wash the gold out. And then on either side, the herringbones are piles of rocks where miners have gone in there, piled the rock on either side, and then they were excavating the gravel and the sand and bringing it down to be washed out in this sluice down the middle. Now where the water come from, it came from up on the ridge here, and it ran down a race, and it dropped into the gully right here. You know, I'm looking over, you can see just where the water dropped out and washed the bank out, and then ran down the middle of this formation here. Now, I'm stepping into, right now, the side race that the miners used to bring the water down the hillside and drop it in here into their paddocks, where they're taking out the gold. Now, I'm walking right up their race, and it looks like it's the remains of it. It's probably 18 inches into the ground. It would have been deeper then, I suppose. Some of it's got rock facing on it, and in other places they brought flat slabs of schist rock, and they used that to line the edges. This water would have come down with a great deal of head, and they would have to line the edges to keep it from washing out and escaping here. Now I'm continuing up the miners' race, their diversion, and you see you've got these schist rocks set vertical in it to line the edges of it. And it continues on up this way to the ridge. This is very tidy work that they did. It's good workmanship. I'm at the head of another one of these herringbone gullies, and the main water race ran along here, and it's diverted right here, and here the water drops, and I'm going to follow where the water went right down into the gully. What you can't see from up there is the perspective on this, the scale of it. These two dividing ridges here, for instance, about 18 feet apart, crown to crown. And another thing you can't see from there is that perpendicular to these main herringbones are additional stacks, racks of rocks. which means they were working their way up between the herringbones and moving the rock so they could get down to the sand and gravel, and that creates a series of lines like this. Now I'm working my way down where the miners would have brought the gravel and sand down. Now I'm in the main sluice, and you can see from there, I'm 6'3". This is a good 5 feet, 4 to 5 feet deep, this sluice, down from the stacked rock on either side of it. Now I'll follow the water down, gravel and sand wash down here, and gold is trapped as it goes down, and then later gathered and excavated.
Well, we've trekked around here for the better part of an hour, taking a look at where the miners were and trying to imagine in our discoveries here just exactly what it might have been like when they were here. The sounds of the rocks smashing against each other as they piled it up, water running, trickling maybe, but sometimes running, shouts to each other across the gullies. But we can only imagine that. We don't know exactly what it was like, but we can see what's left behind now. And that is some of the changes to the landscape that they left in their wake. So we have the sluices that we've been talking about, but now they're filled up with grasses that are growing here. The English briar that has the beautiful red berries on it now, and changes to the landscape. But now they call this a beautifully designed herringbone pattern.
A site like this has a lot of just emotional clout to it when you dive into the rocks and get the feel of it. But it's also worth thinking about it as an artifact that you can read for the history that happened here. And I think there are two real big things you can read from this particular big artifact. And one of them is, well, in New Zealand there's been something of a historical debate the past 20 years over whether this was a society of community and cooperation or whether it was a society of atomized individualism. A place like this, with the massive amount of cooperation it would have taken to divert John Bull Creek perhaps miles from here, and to do all this work in an organized way, to paddock this out and extract the gold, this is evidence of a high degree of a collaboration. It might have been self-interested collaboration, but it was massive collaboration. And then the other thing is the relationship with the landscape itself. We have a tendency to think of miners as rapacious people who tear a place up, and certainly this place conforms to nobody's definition of pristine. But on the other hand, if you back up from it and just consider it from a point of view of design, we have quite a work of art here. And you have to consider the folk expertise of these guys they're not engineers, but they could move water along a plain and transport it across a landscape. And they aren't architects. They've got no degrees in design, but they made this amazing pattern on the land that would make a designer or artist green with envy.